Hi, everybody. Welcome back to RVAsec 2024. Some people like to say RVAsec 13, the 13th year. Incredible. This year it's at the Marriott Richmond, June 4th to 5th, 2024. My next guest, Mr. Corey Overstreet. He's a senior security consultant for RedSiege.com. Corey, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, thank you.
Now, I got to say, when I saw the company name, it conjured up some very disturbing thoughts, I have to say. Red Siege, it's a very powerful name. And I just imagine what it does, because Siege is not good and Red's not good in most situations. But you're going to give a lecture at RVAsec, and the title is great. That Shouldn't Have Worked, Payload Development. Tell us about that. Where did that title come from?
Yeah, so I was trying to think of a way to kind of convey what it is we do when we're on our assumed breach tests. The big thing is we are trying to emulate attackers from top to bottom. And a lot of times we come across things that should just be blocked from the get-go, but it's the easy things that allow us to get in. But, thankfully we came across it before an attacker did.
Now, am I hearing that maybe you're finding vulnerabilities you didn't expect when you start doing this? Is it something simple like the settings were incorrect, kind of basic stuff?
Well, in a lot of cases, these are things that a lot of very common security products would be blocking outright. But it's things that, say, an administrator 5 years ago turned off because a user wasn't able to do what they needed to do, and they just never turned it back on. And because of that, we're able to get code execution and get up and running to emulate those attackers very easily, when really with everything they have, we shouldn't have been able to get up and going.
So I had a consulting job years ago. I was not the IT consultant. I was the physical security consultant, but I knew enough about it to pay attention to what they were talking about. And this particular municipality, the IT guy had not updated Apache in 12 years. And they said, "Why haven't you done that?" "Well, I'm afraid I might break something." I said, "Well, aren't you afraid that it's broken because you didn't update something, right?" So a lot of times it just comes down to administrators saying, I'm overwhelmed, that's too much, and we'll update it later. We kind of shoot ourselves in the foot on some of this. I just find it fascinating. Now, what can attendees learn during this talk? What can they take away from this, Corey?
So pretty much I walked through just kind of the beginning steps of my methodology for writing custom malware to get up and running on an engagement. We've got a lot of talent on our team who've contributed a ton to how we get up and going, plus just all the people in the InfoSec community. But there are a lot of concepts that you have to understand before you can get up and running, and before you can get that custom malware going in an environment, especially one that's tuned differently than the one you were just attacking last week. So in this talk, we kind of run through a lot of high-level concepts. It will require a little more research for the listener, but at the same time, this is a pretty good roadmap to get you familiar with at least most of the concepts that we are familiar with when we're trying to get our malware up and going.
Now, why are you putting this out there? It seems like a oversimple question, but on the other hand, sometimes we put something out there, it creates, another set of problems in a way, right? Letting some bad guys know how everybody's vulnerable. Hey, we came up with this new way to find out how we're all vulnerable. Let's exploit that. But tell us why you're putting it out there. It's certainly helpful, that's for sure.
So with all the talks that I've given so far, I try to put things out there that I wish I had had when I was coming up as a pen tester and a red teamer. But another reason is at the end of our engagements, we usually go through a debrief call, like most engagements. But during that debrief call, the blue teams ask us constantly, how do you know these things? How can we do things when you guys aren't here, in the interim between this engagement and next year? How can we kind of learn some of these things so that we can fix these things before you or, some malicious party gets in here? And so I wanted to kind of put something out there that kind of helped with that, while also giving, not necessarily giving away every secret that you need to know to get up and running. So, if you're determined enough, sure, there may be some bad parties that use this information, but for the most part, it's for, the defenders and for the pen testers who are out there auditing these environments.
So tell me what the defensive teams can take away from it then, because that's super important.
Yeah, so with the defensive teams, they're a lot more familiar with their security products, their security posture. They know about their layers that they need to check. So for them, it might give them a little more context as to, okay, the pen testers came in 3 months ago. This is exactly how they were able to get up and running. So now they can kind of take a different perspective and figure out, why did that work? What can we do to stop it? Or what could we do to at least, mitigate it to the point where we know it's happening if it happens in our environment? That was kind of my approach for writing this, was trying to keep it high level for both sides of the table there.
So as you can see, I got a lot of white hair. I've been in this business for, I don't know, 40 something years. I'm retired. I do this as my new gig. And on occasion, I'll get a call from some youngin that says, "Oh, Mr. Harold used to work at Fox 25 years ago. We found this file here that you wrote. And what's the password?" I go, "I don't know what the password is. It was 25 years ago, right?" The passing on of knowledge from the seniors back to the entry level people in physical security always been problematic, but there's always been like mentoring programs and it's been pretty smooth. In the IT world, I find that I would assume, since everything's digitized and written down and it's coded somewhere, and it's in a cyber format, that knowledge gets passed on. I'm not seeing that as much. Am I wrong in that? In other words, we have all this knowledge, we don't seem to be passing it down to the new people coming on. And the IT industry, from a security perspective, is fairly new compared to the 4,000 years of physical security, right?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say that it's not getting passed down as much as it's not often being collected all in one place to kind of digest it in an easy, like, methodology. For the most part, a lot of this information came from just kind of trying to understand what it was that was stopping me along the way. And then after doing this for 6 7 years, it's just kind of starting to dawn on me that it would be much easier if there were kind of step by step methodologies out there, that at least get you in the right mindset, so you'll understand what it is that's stopping you and what it is you need to do to get past whatever hurdle you're stuck at.
How do you think AI is going to help you in your business? I mean, all your knowledge, I mean, in theory, one day we can just take all of Corey's knowledge and stick it on a disk, and everything Corey knows about IT is right there for access. I think it's going to help improve our security. On the other hand, good argument is it makes us vulnerable if AI is used to crash these things and, break into stuff.
Yeah, I think AI is going to be really important. It's especially going to speed things up. Where I think a lot of organizations have trouble, kind of like you said, amassing that knowledge as well as figuring out, where their vulnerabilities are at. I think AI is going to be a little more quick to spot those things, and make it a lot easier to kind of find this kind of esoteric knowledge that, isn't always necessarily obvious, and, help out, at least speed that process up. But I don't think it's ever going to quite replace, people who need to be boots on the ground figuring these things out. But I think it's going to greatly improve their jobs as far as how quickly they can get up and running.
Yeah, I agree with you. In the end, we're all humans, and that's what it comes down to, is that human interaction and that ability to make a decision based on intuition, not knowledge, right? Because you got to have the intuition to use the knowledge properly. Corey Overstreet, redsiege.com. Good stuff, my friend. Check out his lecture, That Shouldn't Have Worked, Payload Development, at RVAsec 2024 or RVAsec 13. Marriott Richmond, June 4th to the 5th. Corey, I won't be able to see you in person this year. Unfortunately, I'm landlocked here, but maybe next year we'll meet in person. Good luck to you at your lecture.
Hey, thanks, Chuck.